Morowa Yejide. Okay, there you go. And there you are,
And
joining us from D.C.
Yes, and she's a very celebrated author. Her short stories have appeared in Istanbul Review, Ascent Aspirations Magazine, Underground Voices, the Adirondack Review, and others. Her story, Tokyo Chocolate, was nominated in 2009 for the Pushcart Prize. Her book, which we're going to be talking about right now, Time of the Locust, was a 2012 finalist for the National Penn Bellwether Prize. So we're very excited that she is here with us, and we want to talk a little bit about this book. And there's a very specific reason why we're featuring this book on Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy.
Yes, tell us a little bit about the book.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Shannon and Nancy. Time of the Locust is a literary fiction, magical realism novel, and it tells the story of a 7-year-old boy who is autistic and nonverbal, and it's about his supernatural relationship with his incarcerated father. His father is in a supermax facility. So we get a window into what it's like for his mother to raise him as a single mom and to try to reach him, and what it's like in terms of his world of water, which is his imagined world, his interior world. And he uses that world to process what he calls the land of air, which is the real world, the world where other people function every day. And it's a way for him to deal with his frustrations and fears.
Well, I'm curious about why you chose this subject. Why was this something that you wanted to tackle, autism?
It came about in a very organic way. I'm a very image-driven writer. I like to deal with concepts, and I'm a researcher by trade. So I came across by chance an article, and it had a photograph, a beautiful color photograph of this boy, autistic boy, nonverbal. He was looking out the window, and he was looking out a window at a tree, and he had just this wonderful, wonderful expression on his face, and it just seemed to be an entire universe behind those eyes. And I remember thinking, wow, this child is nonverbal, but I'll bet there's a whole world behind there, a whole universe behind there. So I wanted to explore what that world might look like. I also became fascinated with the concept of dormant lives, interior lives, things that we don't necessarily get to see, hidden worlds. So I began to look at what type of worlds might those be. Autism, to me, from what I've been able to understand about it, is still very much one of those great mysteries of the mind. There are many mysteries of the mind, and autism is one of them. There's still so much that's not understood. And I wanted to do the idea that there is an interior world justice by exploring that through the lens of magical realism, through the lens of autism, and really try to look at what an American family would look like dealing with certain extraordinary circumstances, like the mom being single, her husband being in a supermax. I looked at the dormant underworld of the prison systems in the United States. And I looked at the sort of interior prisons that people build for themselves through the mom and also through the uncle. So it's an exploration of family and what they might be facing.
Wonderful.
Well, this is a particular interest to me, Morowa, because I have a son on the spectrum. We both do, as you know, Shannon and I. And my son Wyatt has a particular fascination with water. And of course, in therapy, we try to what we call extinguish that obsession to make him more typical than make him more neurotypical, because if he could, he would play and splash with water all day, literally. It is his escape. It calms him. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the book Why I Jump by the young Japanese autistic man. Have you heard of that book?
I have heard of this. I have not had an opportunity to read it, but I have heard.
Okay, well, I urge you to check that out, because it really gave me an understanding of the love of water and why so many individuals on the spectrum are drawn to it. So this is a particular interest to me, and I'm really anxious to read your book. Could you honor us with reading a bit from the book?
Sure, I would love to. There were many things that frustrated Safiri about being in the land of air. He couldn't stand the different regimens and schedules that were not of his own making, how the people were always telling and talking and asking, until it all became a sort of noise that ran together in his head. Not like the grandfather clock at the end of the hallway. He loved to watch the pendulum swing and listen to the tick-tock in the quiet of the night. The ticks and tocks knew their order. They understood their place. He liked to press his ear to its mechanics, its genius and symmetry. The sound was like his favorite shape, a cube, a shape of perfection, with its height, width, depth, balanced against itself, whole and complete, like the night, like the dark in the coat closet. Sometimes he was able to enter and close the door before his mother could catch him, and he was encased. He was protected by the sublimity of height, width, depth. That was how everything should be. But Safiri discovered, as early as 2 years old, that air and water were different places with different ways and language. He had been playing with some colored blocks on the floor. He remembered his mother picking up different blocks, saying something and pointing. He didn't look at her face, but he could see that finger pointing from the corner of his eye and her hand holding the block. But he didn't want to hold the blocks. He didn't want to think about their shape and color and mimic her sounds. He had wanted only to line them up and line them up again, to ensure that they were where they were supposed to be. He tried to explain. Screaming, kicking, biting, flailing silence, but his mother did not comprehend him, and the more he tried to get her to understand, the more it became clear to him that she would never know his language. But there was nothing like the loveliness of his world of water, the realm of deep blue and luminescence where Safiri spent much of his time floating. He loved to drift far out to the obsidians, as his sea friends called them. He could speak there and be understood. He could float out to the realness of his world of water, where the sea was an endless expanse as turquoise as the liquid in his bathtub. He could head toward his desired destination anytime he wanted, with only his little wooden boat gliding toward the 3 great black rocks that rose from the ocean, where the invertebrates and the spiked beasts and the water plants ruled. The dolphin waited for his company there, and the great octopus sat in majesty in his iridescent lair on the ocean floor. What concerned him in air did not concern him in water. He did not need the laws of physics to rein in his terrors, frustrations, and confusions there. He did not need to spin or bang or rock or flap. He could forget about the creatures flying in his dreams. He could forget about the words of air and speak freely in water, where the language of men was as indecipherable to his friends of the deep as it was to him, an encrypted thing to ponder briefly and release, like the dialogue of wolves and birds in flight.
Wonderful. And we both got choked up. We both got very choked up as you started to read.
Your words are just beautiful. What a mastery of...
Beautiful writer.
You are quite a wordsmith and
quite a researcher, too.
Yeah, it really touched me.
Well, thank you. That means so much coming from you. It really does. I was fortunate to have, aside from regular research, moms of autistic children who opened their hearts really with letters when they had time anyway, because everyone's busy, but just sharing what their day looked like, and the many moms that shared the video blogs to show what autism looks like, what motherhood looks like, what a day looks like.
Well, I'm so struck by how beautiful the words are, but also one of the things that I was also struck by is that we talk a lot on this show about our underserved populations in the autism community, and there are many underserved populations, but one of them is the African American community. And
absolutely.
And I feel so fortunate that we have you today, because as I was doing research on this book and about you writing this book, it really struck me that there are many things now that other communities have that we can point to, that when Parenthood came out and there was a character in Parenthood, a lot of my friends saw Parenthood and then called me and contacted me and started a conversation because of that. And so often we need things like fiction and art, and we need movies to show things, to open up for all of us to begin to understand them. And I firmly believe that the African American community has needed this book.
Yeah, the characters are, as Shannon said, they're not your typical protagonist. You have an overweight black woman, an autistic boy, and an incarcerated father. Where did you come up with these characters?
I think the characters really came about as a result of the concepts. I never start with a character in mind. I always start with a concept, and then the character becomes layers. They end up being a sort of composite of other people, other lives that I've read about, and also the possibilities. All of these characters in the book represent, especially Safiri, represent the human capacity for greatness, the possibility of wonder. And what really brought that home for me was just, I love looking at oil paintings, and I began to, by accident, I came across some paintings by a young man named Neri Abraham, who is autistic. He's 19 years old. And I didn't realize he was. I was sharing his photo. I was sharing his paintings, his oil paintings, with my friends. And went and contacted the email address, and lo and behold, his mother, who's from Israel, said, "Oh yeah, this is my son's work." And I thought, it's just the tip of the iceberg, and it just really gave a glimpse of the human possibilities of all of us. Just because someone can't necessarily communicate or tell us something in a certain way doesn't mean that their abilities and their potential isn't there.
Interesting because Wyatt is also an artist. He's a painter, so you've touched a nerve there. Go ahead, Shannon.
Well, I was just going to say that one of the running themes throughout the book is the different ways that people can be imprisoned by different things, and that there's a wide range of things in which you illustrate this that I think that anybody could find a connection with. That there is autism, there's gluttony, there's self-hate, there's racism, there's imprisonment, all these different things. And so I want to make sure that people know that this is not just a book for the autism community.
Absolutely not.
This is a book for all of us. I think this will speak to anyone, because we all have our own kinds of things that imprison us. Really beautiful.
Definitely. How can people get the book? Everybody's probably wondering that now. How do they get this remarkable book?
Okay, many different ways. There's you can go to SimonandSchuster.com. You can go to my website, www.morowayejide.com. I'm also on Goodreads. It's been all over Goodreads, so as well as Amazon.
Okay.
So
those
are the best.
When did you release the novel?
The book came out June 10th.
Okay, so you're really just getting the momentum going here. Now, you've got an important event coming up. You're going to be at the Brooklyn Book Fair on September 21st. You're going to be joining a lot of very well-known, celebrated writers. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I'm excited about it. Very prominent festival. And I'm going to be on a panel called Autism Portraits. And I'll be joining some really distinguished people. Ron Suskind, he's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, as well as Jill Mullen, who wrote the book and she is autistic herself. She published a book called Drawing Autism through Akashic Books that's been doing very well. So really, we're going to be talking about how autism played a role in our stories.
And clearly, clearly you're aware of the statistics with the rise in autism, 1 in 68. 1 in 68, right?
Yes.
Sometimes I get that transposed. So clearly autism is going to be touching all of our lives, whether you have somebody in your immediate family or not. Almost all of us know someone with autism. And
almost all of us do.
Yeah, and you've really illuminated something here that I think I'm just really, I have not had a chance to read it prior to this interview. We just got this set up, but both Shannon and I are planning to get the book and spend time delving into it and undoubtedly being touched by our own connection to it. And we just want to thank you and wish you the best. Do you aspire to see this maybe made into a film, or do you just want to see right now the book become a big success?
Well, obviously, I would love the book to have staying power and to really resonate with people for many years to come. I would love to see it in visual format, especially through the eyes of Safiri. A series
Lovely.
through Safiri's eyes would be wonderful as well, I think.
Well, we wish you the best of luck with all the things that you're doing. And again, on the 21st, which is this weekend at the Brooklyn Book Fair.
Sunday.
Yes, this Sunday. Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for writing this lovely novel.
Thank you so much. This has been a real delight.
It's been a pleasure having you. Good luck.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Wonderful, and as you
so
said, a
touched by that.
wordsmith. Yes, we both. It was like she was 3 words in, and we both started to well up.
Talented writer, talented woman.